Well, how you doing? I'm Larry Mack here with comedian Lewis Black. It's a pleasure. I've been following your career for what seems like an eternity now. Um,
Yeah, even the last 10 minutes seems like an eternity.
oh, the technology we have today. It's amazing though that we can do these Zoom calls now. There's one good thing that came out of the pandemic is I can now have a face to face with a lot of these interviews that I do.
Yeah, though, which is good for you, but then I have to worry about what the hell I look like.
Yeah, well, as I do too, because I'm a radio guy and I got into radio for a reason. But
I know, exactly. This really guts the whole concept of me wandering around in the morning doing radio, and I could be, standing around buck naked staring out my window, and it was perfect.
drinking a cup of coffee and nobody has any idea what's going on.
Nobody knows nothing, and now it's like, is my background okay? Do I look all right? Should I get powder? And being on TV for a long time, after about your first or second time, you go, boy, thank God for the makeup person. Thank God they've got spackling so that I look somewhat like I'm somewhat healthy. So this is a different world.
Well, you look great, sir, and thank you for taking time. And are you on the West Coast or the East Coast right now?
Oh no, I can't do the West Coast. That makes me insane. No, I'm on the East Coast. I live in New York. I can, and that I know is nuts to some people, but that amount of traffic out there, at least here I can walk to most of the places.
Yes, I've only been to New York City a couple times, and I was amazed. There's taxis everywhere within an instant. Here in Tucson, you call a taxi, it's a 45-minute wait
Yeah, yeah,
because they're just not
yeah.
needed. So you're going to be here in Tucson at the Fox Theater for your Off the Rails tour on September 30th.
Yes.
Can you tell people a little bit about what this tour is like? Is this your first tour back since the pandemic, or did you kind of work your way through it all?
No, no, God, no. It was 600 days when the pandemic hit to when I performed. It was 600 days, 600. I did not do any of this. I didn't do Zoom comedy. I don't understand Zoom comedy. It makes no sense to. It's like doing Hollywood Squares with. It was. I just couldn't deal with that. I need to be in an audience with. I need to be in a theater with a live audience. I write on stage, so I was lost without having the audience there, and I wasn't going to go do. Well, we've got this place, we're doing all of these things, we're checking on everything, it'll be really safe. No, no, it isn't. And then, even when it took a while after the vaccinations came out that I was able to really start. And even then, I started so quickly, like an idiot. I was like, "Oh, I haven't worked in so long. Let's just do this. Let's 600 days. Well, yeah, why not? Why not? It's like a marathoner going who hasn't run in 600 days. I'm going to run a marathon today. Well, you're not, you idiot. So I kind of went out there. I did too many shows too quickly. And I ended up getting sick
Oh,
because, well, it was ludicrous. I wasn't doing what I yell, I scream. I went back literally as if the day I'd worked the day before, and there was 600 days in between, and it took a while to get back up to speed, and then it's been fine, and then I had to stop again, which is just irritable. It makes me. But
you're a road warrior too. Like you're on the road like 200 something days a year, aren't you normally?
Well, yeah, a pretty big chunk. Not so much that now, but still about 100 and something, 125 dates probably, maybe more or less. And if I'm not doing one thing, I'm doing something else. Uh, so it's something it's what I want to do. It's what I like, and now I've missed it, so I'm doing as much as I can. But what happened was, is I went. I finally really got to the road and started really rolling, and then you had to cancel because the pandemic hit again. The
Hmm.
people weren't going back to theaters, even though we were vaccinated. So eventually in early December through May, I was touring, and then during that time came up with a new special, and
Mm.
so part of what you answering your question, which took a week to get to, which is what it does now. Part of the pandemic is used to be able to answer a question in 1, 2 seconds. Now it takes a minute and a half, 3, 5 minutes to find out what it was you were talking about. So now when I come out there, part of what you'll be seeing is the what my what was in my special, and or maybe not, depending on how much nonsense has occurred. But I do know I'll be talking about healthcare for sure because I had a really nice chunk about that, and I kept it didn't make it into the special before, it didn't make it into the next special, because all of that was kind of about the pandemic and what was happening. And this finally I can move on and talk about this healthcare that I had in Ireland, which people always go, boy, oh, you don't want to really get health care over there. Oh, yes, you do. Yes, you do want
Wow.
to get.
Okay,
I mean,
a lot better, I presume, from the way you're acting.
was phenomenal. Okay,
Wow.
it was the fact that I was just wandering into a hospital with pneumonia and was very sick, and in kind of not even understanding until later that it was in a it was in
Oh, wow.
it was a life threatening situation, and as I say in the bit, and it was a great experience. Nobody says that about a life threatening situation, but it was their equipment is eerily similar to ours. The way in which we discuss healthcare in this country, we're like it's a group of people who've been in a prison for so long and just say, okay, sure, the bars are fine.
Mm.
This is perfect. I can't live without the bars. Well, no, this is madness. And unless this idea that, oh boy, in those other countries they wait online. Well, I called to see an ear, nose, and throat guy recently, who I've been seeing kind of regularly, and it was a 70-day wait. Okay, so don't tell me about a line.
Yeah.
And then you kind of got to finagle. Well, this is all it's going to take. I'll come in or whatever it takes, and then you wait until there's somebody drops out of the line.
Oh, yeah. Or they send you to urgent care, and then urgent care tells you to go see your doctor.
Exactly. Yes.
It's kind of ridiculous here. So how do you come up with your topics? I mean, about 20 plus years ago, I was in Las Vegas, and I got to see the late George Carlin after
Oh
he had
wow.
come back from a extended health hiatus. And he apologized to the audience, and he had a bunch of note cards. And he would read these jokes, tell these jokes, and then like literally go little notes, and then toss the ones he didn't like. And then about 9, 10 months later, I saw his last HBO special, and it was interesting watching because I remembered some of the jokes, and then saw how some of them morphed. Do you
Yeah.
work like that after, like you said, you went from 600 days to being on stage? Did you come up with notes, or was it all in your head, or do you work similar, or you work completely different?
It was notes, and I would have the notes next to me, but I kind of run through the outline. I have things I'm going to talk about, so I know I'm going to talk about healthcare, and and there's other things that I've watched recently, so I'll add that into the mix, and then I'm sure that I mean, now, and then they just voted that they can't cap insulin charges. Okay, so I know that's in the mix. So they kind of continue to just hand me material, and I pack it and stuff it, and really night after night I take I work from the notes. I get what the jokes are, and the more that I work, and one of the reasons I like working a lot is because that's how it stays in my head. So I don't really have to write the stuff down and go, oh, that worked. And my opening act kind of goes, you really should keep this, or has an idea for something or a way to approach something, and so it evolves. George George was different. I had a great half hour interview with George, and in which he couldn't understand how I wasn't writing things down, and I couldn't understand how he was. And he really wrote stuff down. I mean, he was much more of a craftsman in terms of his writing, in terms of the fact that he would sit down and do the writing. I will occasionally get something. I go, oh, that's it, and put the words down so I remember. But mostly it's up there.
It's all up here. And we're, I mean, obviously, real life. I've been following your comedy for a while, everything you've done on television and stuff. And then I remember you were doing a thing called the rant for a while.
Yeah, I'm
Is
still doing.
that is that you're still doing that at the shows?
Yeah. Well, yeah. No. Plus, I've got and it's that thing. There's a billion podcasts, so I have a rant cast, and I have been since the it started in the midst of about 90. We've done 94 of them. So the initial ones that we did were the last year of my tour before we had to stop.
Hmm.
Those and part of the reason we got it back, we wanted to get it out there was is that the writing had evolved to a level that was just spectacular. So night after night, it was like an easy job. I would go back before the show. I look at what people had sent in, and I generally try to read what comes from. So when I'm in Tucson, I will read. I will do it after we do an hour show, and then right after I return immediately with an iPad and picked out the rants, and I'll pick out ones that come from the audience, ones that come from Tucson, ones that come from the state, and then ones that might have shown up that are really topical and nail something and may not be within the state. But I try to make it kind of a show, so it'd be the Tucson show,
Oh,
and
okay.
so that's what I did with the initial rantcast. But the writing had gotten so good, and that's and that'll we're starting again, and I've kept having folks send in stuff while I've been when I haven't been doing the show. So I've been reading rants that are kind of either rants I didn't get to during the course of the year that I was running around, and then and new rants that have come in.
So while you were, so while the 600 days were going on, and I've interviewed a lot of musicians, and a lot of them were like, they're so used to being on the road, they're so used to being in front of an audience, or sometimes something would come up and they go, "Oh, I got this song." They can kind of put that aside and wait until they're ready to release a record. But with a stand-up comic like yourself, observational and all that, were there moments during the 600 days where you're like, "I really want to be on stage because I need to," but like, how did you handle that? Because you just didn't, or did you turn yourself off?
No, I didn't handle it well. At all. It was my special was my set. The special that was coming out, and some of the things I'll talk about when I come there was is I didn't handle I didn't handle it well at all. I was like I was a wreck. I was like it was I I made a choice in a sense that I wasn't in it was my relationship. I was married to my audience. So it was like I was in the midst of a trial separation that neither of us had agreed on. It was like it was like how did this happen? And so I had lost I'd lost really who the people I was talking to. As much as it was the laughter. Oh, did you miss the laughter? Well, I heard laughter and no one was there, for crying out loud. So this was really, for me, it was, I missed my relationship with the group of people who had become, who would come out to see me each time.
And how did you handle it? You said
No,
you couldn't, but I mean, did you have any release? Did you write? Did you?
but what I did was the rantcast, and what did it, what allowed me to stay in touch with my with the nature of my comedy. I knew the one thing I could do is read a rant. You can hand me a rant, and I can read that rant. All right, if somebody's angry about something, I think I'm as good as anybody in terms of that. Name an actor, I don't care who it is. That's what I'm good at. And I know where the laughs are within something like that, or I know exactly how to deliver it if it's serious. And so that's what kept me in touch. And then at the beginning of it, when I knew that it wasn't, things weren't good, was I would do like I'd be discussing, whatever had happened the past week, and I would tell I'm sitting there in front of them as I am now. This is my, I call it my cable access studio, and I'm sitting here like this by myself, and trying to come up with these punchlines, and I didn't have them because I didn't have that backboard. So I was telling the audience, I'm sorry, but what you're hearing is my thoughts rather than my thoughts evolving. These are the thoughts that I have before I get to the joke. And that's what people were watching. And it was driving me nuts.
Yeah,
And
because
then
your sounding board wasn't there.
yeah.
Wow.
They would say it was funny, and I'd go, well, I don't see it. So, and I didn't, and I still don't. I just did one yesterday about, what's been happening in terms of, the the Mar-a-Lago business, which I don't really want to discuss because tomorrow it's going to be something else. So, it's like trying to get out of bed with him. It just seems like we've been continually, he's been sleeping with us. Can we stop this for a minute? And that there's got to be this constant conjecture. Well, there are these things. No, they're not these things. If this was awful, no, it wasn't. Stop it. And so I was trying to come up with the jokes within it, and a lot of the difficulty of the jokes is the fact that how do you satirize what's already satiric?
Yeah. It's been nonstop.
It is nonstop. He's watching himself. He's watching them do the stuff. Come on, folks! And then he's yelling that they're planting. He's watching them. He's
so how do you decide? Because you're going to be in town September 30th, and the news cycle now is 24/7, nonstop, and something can you could look at the news at 5 o'clock, and by the time you hit stage at 8 o'clock, there could be a whole new branch of news going out.
Yes.
That changes what you may have thought earlier. How
Yes.
do you keep up when you're doing stand-up like that?
Well, the good news is the audience can't keep up either. So it really, that was one of my first lesson number one. A lot of the times I'm telling the audience stuff that happened 2 months before because they've missed it. And then I've got my good friend Kathleen Madigan, who is a very funny lady who's worked in Tucson
Mhm.
and she's telling me stuff she's telling me about something that occurred. She'll call me up and go, "Did you see this today?" I go, "No, I didn't see it. How did you see it?" But she's on her phone more than I am. You've got to, and I'm not on the phone, and that really puts me behind the eight ball. But I can't do it. I'm not. I'm already having enough trouble keeping up with emails.
So true. So somebody who's never seen Lewis Black in a stand-up show before, what can they expect? Maybe they've seen you in TV, they've seen you in various movies, TV type stuff. What can they expect?
They hopefully can expect someone who is responding to the insanity around them in the same fashion that they would be. And hopefully, if they show up, what they should realize is that the person they're listening to yelling and screaming is not a pessimist, but really an optimist because he believes that things can be better. And that the only way that they can be better, whether people like it or not, is for us to get together and drop the nonsense and move on. And that we have to, and they can talk about it all they want. Yes, the Constitution is vital. Okay, that's important. And also, what else is important is that in order for the Constitution to work, you got to agree on what reality is.
Mm-hmm. This time though must be for you. You were talking about earlier. I don't remember a time in history where it just seems like it's a machine gun coming at us constantly with topics.
It is. I've said that. I've said that in my rantcast, where I kind of go, "This is insane. What's going on?" And I go, here's another 32 things that have happened, and then sometimes I finish it, then I have to come on with an addendum. I go, "Well, I forgot this."
Well,
Or something happens.
where can people watch the Rantcast?
It's you can see it on YouTube. If
Okay.
you go to lewisblack.com, they always have if you go to lewisblack.com, there's that you can go right to it. And it also there is where you can find out when I'm coming to Tucson, where to send in the rants and how to do it.
Oh, perfect.
And
Well,
I don't want to hear you whining that I ask for an email address and that. Nobody's going to bombard you with stuff, okay? And you can get rid of us really easy. Just get the rant in. That's what really matters.
you can always hit unsubscribe.
Yes. But
Lewis,
we actually unsubscribe. We won't come back with a fake Lewis Black who then does.
which some companies do. Absolutely. Well, Lewis, I'm looking forward to. You're going to be at the Fox Theater here in Tucson on September 30th. Your set's about an hour, you said?
It's an hour, and then I come back for 25 minutes to do the rantcast. So
Oh,
that
perfect.
goes, yeah, no. So then I read the rants, and that goes. And what's great about that is that Tucson will then I will send Tucson to the world. It goes throughout the world. We have a satellite dish we're hooked up to.
Oh, that's fantastic.
It's psychotic, is what it is.
Yeah, I can't wait to see the show, and I'm going to be there, and I'm going to see the Rantcast live. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yep, and send in a rant. You
Oh,
don't even have, yeah, if you want, you can do it under an assumed name.
I might even ask my audience to send in some rants to send to you.
Please.
Well, Lewis, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Well, I do too. I appreciate the time and the effort, and the energy that you put into this, and it means a lot. Thank you.
Well, looking forward to seeing your show September 30th, Fox Theater here in Tucson, comedian Lewis Black. And it's lewisblack.com.
LewisBlack.com.
Simple to the point. Appreciate it.
Take care.